So let me introduce myself quickly. My name is Natalia Borinshteyn. I'm a dermatologist by training who spent over 20 years in industry, holding different roles from launch excellence to medical affairs, clinical development, launching amazing products to benefit millions of patients. And I'm very fortunate to be today a president of Life Science Excellence, strategic services business, which provides support to companies in biopharmaceutical field to address strategic challenges which we face every single day with ever-changing healthcare environment. Back
Well,
to
it's
you.
super great to meet you. My name is Kimberly Moran. You can call me Kim. I am a neuroscientist by training. I've got almost 20 years experience in the industry, working at a real small startup to cut my teeth into pharma and working with patients and orphan diseases at the time. And now I am the senior vice president and head of rare disease in the US for UCB. So I get to serve rare and ultra rare patient populations, which is really what my passion has been pretty much my whole life. So excited to chat.
So let's talk a little bit about the upcoming session. The title of your session is Meeting Patients Where We Are. So why do you think it is so critical for the communication to happen across all levels of the playing fields?
So I love this. So meeting patients where they are, it really starts off with what is the driver? What's the mission? And for me, I work at UCB, and putting patients at the heart of everything we do is essential. So we're guided by kind of this continuum between patient, science, and solution. First, we have to listen to patients. That is required: listening, learning, creating those insights that can inform our science. Then, once we have the science, we have to be able to bring that solution back to the patient. And we have to be able to do that understanding the life that they want to live, which is really free from some of the challenges that we see in the severe diseases that we get to serve. This purposeful mission really drives our ambition. What I see in rare disease is that very often patients get left behind. They're often forgotten, they're unheard, they're isolated, and that also affects their disease. So many patients are in need. And I'll give you an example. So one of the diseases that I work in is myasthenia gravis. It's often called a snowflake disease because you see one patient, it's one patient. So no two experiences are the same in this autoimmune disease. But what we do know is that we need to tailor to the individual. Every patient has very clear individualized needs. So how are we able to do that and meet these patients where they are? And that requires listening. So one of our innovative approaches is what we call patient listening sessions. So ever since we started our foray into myasthenia gravis, we've had a panel of a dozen or so patients that we ask questions to. Does this sit with you? Does this make sense? Does this resonate with you? Everything from a simple website to a conversation guide to the services that we provide to our patients. Every one of those have been able to have that conversation. And I can think about patients that often they don't have energy that day, or maybe their triggers for their disease is environmental, where hot, humid days in Georgia, where I live, that is a trigger for some patients. So really understanding these very nuanced things that happen in their lives, we have to meet them where they are so we can help them live at their individualized goals.
Where do you think we have greatest areas of improvement?
So when I think about being authentic and being reliable, that's the foundation of trust. And I think the industry that we come from is often seen with mistrust. So being very clear about how we build trust with communities. Of course, that is about listening, but beyond listening and deep understanding, it is that our actions are aligned to our values, which is to serve patients, to listen to patients, also to be very transparent. There's been some recalls within our industry somewhat recently, and I think being clear as to the intent when things happen. Why did it happen? Was this a choice to not serve patients? No. We always want to ensure the greatest level of safety and care and being able to be trustful from our actions, but also transparent in terms of communications. I also think what we see is we're leaving patients behind. We are. They get stuck. They get stuck in their patient journey. And you can actually see quite a bit of delays in diagnosis and delays in treatment. Often patients get stuck in what I would call infinity loops. So we need to be able to understand where these patients are and help them get out of these stuck situations. And to me, that builds that authenticity and that reliability. If we're able to have data or information that can help speed along someone's journey, that's another way to build trust and that we're doing it appropriately and always with the outcomes in mind for patients. How do they live at their ideal? How do they live the life that they want as an individual?
So, I guess the question I have to follow is, do you think we as an industry are listening close enough to what patient really wants? It
I
looks like
would
definitely UCB, you're doing that, but I'm curious about the broader picture.
I would love to say that with all good intent that people do things perfectly, but I wonder how much we're listening to hear or listening to understand. And really, it requires you to listen to understand. I mentioned this patient panel, and it is much more about deep listening. What are we missing? How do we close that gap? How do we also change our lens in terms of equity and seeing people as an individual? So, for example, thinking about underrepresented populations. Why are they underserved? What are the barriers to care? One of the areas that we have been working with is not everyone in the US speaks English. So we've started to create a lot of bilingual patient support experiences from our materials to be dual translated into Spanish. We also have care coordinators that work one on one with patients and speak in their native Spanish language. Knowing that that is such a big underserved minority in the US from an ethnicity perspective, that's just one way. And I can tell you, I've been in the field recently and have already been approached for my next 2 or 3 languages that we need to be serving. Because if you can't express yourself in your native language, it's really hard to express your goals as a patient. As you were talking about having this shared decision making, if a patient can't speak or has a full language barrier and needs translation, they're not able to talk about their needs deeply enough. Like, because I know many bilingual, trilingual, multilingual individuals, and you can hear the difference when you speak in your native language and you express yourself versus a secondary or tertiary language. So we're really trying to meet patients where they are by some of these approaches.
So, I guess looking forward to next week in Boston, what are you looking towards most at the upcoming event, and what learnings do you hope to for attendees to take home?
Well, I love events like this because one, it is such a forum to learn. I'm an ever learner. I love to hear what other people are doing that's unique, that's innovative, but also keeps the patient at the center of all that we do. So when I think about it as an industry, we really need to be thinking about the person, the human, and that it really is at the heart. And then from there, for me, what people need to be taking away is really about that lived experience of the patient. Um, Seeing how others are listening. How are we listening? And as I said before, not listening to hear, but listening to understand. I think too often we take syndicated reports or just a quick research study and say, oh, we know everything about this patient population. That's not true. And also now with technology and generative AI, the speed at which content is being created is faster than we can consume. So being able to understand what is being thrown at these communities, what is resonating, and honestly, where are we missing the mark? So to me, I think it's going to be a great opportunity to see the innovation, the creativity, and just meeting a bunch of folks that are super excited to work with many different patient communities, both large and small.
I spent some of my time working on Humira. And many people ask me since I joined AbbVie, why do you think the third to market product, which is an anti-TNF, became a market leader in such a short time? And I have been asking people that.
I love that.
The conclusion I came to was a true, authentic, laser-focused patient centricity of the entire company. From the CEO to every single person, every day went by, people were referring to a patient journey, learning and enhancing. The product had been on the market for a while.
Yeah.
There was a continuous effort to update the patient journey, to learn something new. Patient was involved and patients were involved in every single thing which have been done. And I'm not saying this is the only reason of success of Humira. There are amazing work from a lot of amazing people went into what this brand became. But the patient centricity at the core of what everybody did, I think was a big driver for that. And I think we all have an opportunity to sit at the table with the patients. You mentioned the field days. I think field days are extremely important. And it's not only an opportunity to see how our reps are doing or medical science liaisons are doing, but it's an opportunity to hear to caregivers, to providers, to patients themselves. And as you said, I just cannot uh, repeated more and more is to hear to understand, to listen to understand, to listen to learn and act versus to listen to respond, which we all often as a
Oh,
human
yeah.
being are doing. Nothing is wrong with that. That's our nature. We're listening and we're like, oh, I would say this and that. But we need to listen to understand what's happening with those patients so we can act in the best way we can as an industry with our limitations, with our existing tools and opportunity, and always looking to the future, how we can do better tomorrow and next month and next year. And I'm absolutely confident with such great leaders as you, Kim, our patients and our future is in great hands. And I look forward to see you and to all participants at our conference in Boston next week and have vibrant discussions, learn from each other. And I'm sure for me, it's going to be a great educational learning experience. And I hope it will be same for others.